from associate professor from BNMIT Bangalore, and the topic of insulation coordination and recent trends in insulation systems. Right now, I welcome our expert person, Dr. Sudalai Shanmugam, and hand over the session to Dr. Sudalai. Sudalai sir, please take over the session.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity. Very good morning to everyone. Today's session will be about insulation coordination and recent trends in insulation system. I will be covering on a stretch what do you mean by insulation. Before going into directly insulation coordination, I will just highlight what are the national NSP project, in short, national important projects, especially with respect to power engineering or on being in the process in India. What are the essential growths in high voltage and power engineering across the world in recent times? How or where this coordination comes into picture? What are the tests we are planning, we are usually carrying out? And when I speak about insulation coordination and designing parameter, it is essential that we have to understand the testing criteria, insulation selection criteria. So I'll be playing the videos of the actual testing of equipments also. And finally, what are the recent drawbacks or setbacks we have faced in Indian power system and how we are addressing that? I'll be covering all this at a stretch, maybe within 1 hour, 20 minutes. Maybe last 20 minutes we can let it for open question and answer session. I will be more than happy if any participant try to interact with me during the presentation. That will enable me to explain further and to give something more rather than in the traditional presentation. Going ahead. So in general, we start with high voltage, then we move for extra high voltage, ultra high voltage, and how the insulation coordination plays a vital role. What are the material we are planning for out? In when I say material, it literally means different types of insulating material, be it ceramic insulator, glass insulator, or polymeric, in other words, composite insulators. So if we go by strict definition of standards, especially IEC and its national counterparts, the standard says that anything more than 1000 volt is high voltage in case of AC supply, and anything more than 1500 volt is high voltage in case of DC supply. If we are going traditionally by standard, this is the defining parameter. Anything more than 1000 volt for AC, it comes under the classification of high voltage. Anything more than at least 1500 volt, it is traditionally comes under high voltage for DC power supply. That is the common nomenclature. But when it comes to power system, we used to supersede that. We usually call the system voltage between 35 kV to 25 kV as high voltage level when it comes to power transmission perspective. The system between 330 to 330 kV or less than 1000 kV, it is called extra high voltage. And the system is having 1000 kV and above, it is called ultra high voltage. Why power engineering or power transmission has different nomenclature is up to 220 kV, the fault level or the nomenclature of the fault which is occurring in the system is quite different when compared to EHV level. It means the fault occurrence and the impact of the faults at HV won't be the same as that of EHV level, and the fault significance impacts won't be the same as that of UHV level. It means each level has its own peculiar characteristics with respect to system faults. That is why we are moving for this kind of classification: 35 to 220, 330 to 1000 kV and 1000 kV and above. And India have systems on all the three levels right now in the world. And similarly, when it comes to DC system. 600 kV and below, it is called as HVDC, and above 600 kV, we are usually comes under UHVDC. And again, right now we have HVDC operation system, and UHVDC is being commissioned in northeastern part of India. I will cover that in the very next slide. May I move for the next slide, sir?
You can please carry on, no problem.
Fine, sir. So this is the brief history about high voltage development all over the world. If any participant is willing, they can tell which country is having highest transmission voltage in the world right now. You can see step by step, we started with the 110 kV in German. Then again, we moved for 220 kV, 287 kV. Step by step, over the period of time, we moved for higher and higher voltage. Of course, transmitting power in high voltage has its unique advantages. We can save a lot of copper. We can reduce power loss. Of course, your reliability, voltage regulation, everything will be improved. So it is imperative, especially a country with a vast lands area to cover like India, China. It is imperative that we have to move for high voltage transmission, be it HVAC or HVDC. The question is, when we are moving for HV, EHV and UHV transmission, how to counter the fault occur along with the higher system voltage? And right now, the highest system voltage being employed in the world is 1200 kV, and it is from India. Okay. Earlier 1100 kV, 1200 kV system, 100 kV system was there in China. They were operating around 1050 kV. Right now, India has a 1200 kV system. It is not for public utility. It is a testing station. We are studying the different parameter. It is in Bina, Madhya Pradesh. I'll show the picture to you. Yeah, this is the 1200 kV system being erected commissioned in India. Right now, it is called a national test station. We are studying what are the faults, how the installation coordination should be designed, and various other parameters with respect to the system. It's in Madhya Pradesh. We have been studying this for, I believe, past 2 years now. Past 2 to 3 years at least. What you are seeing is a 1200 kV national substations, circuit breaker as a Siemens product. Going ahead. Again, when it comes to power transmission, one of the key parameters to define or limit the power transfer capability is your surge impedance. So I have given a table how the surge impedance will define the voltage carried in the line and also the power transfer. And I have also provided a relation between system voltage with respect to transfer distance. It's generally in the logic of 1 kV, 1 megawatt, 1 kilometer. Up to first 3 segment, if you see the first 3 segment, it will follow under that category. This won't come under that category. You can just see P is equal to U square by Z. Z is the surge impedance of the line. Z is equal to root of L by C. Again, L by C is a function of transmission conductor. So P is equal to U square by Z. If I substitute, U square is 220 kV divided by Z is 400. The power will be around 120 megawatt. That is 121 I have shown here. So this is the common nomenclature we are following in India as well as elsewhere in the world also. I have not shown 1200 kV because 1200 kV we are still studying that. It is not commissioned for commercial purpose. Moving ahead. So right now, as an Indian, we can be very proud. India has one of the highest system voltage in the world, 1200 kV. Our nominal voltage or operating voltage will be around 1050 kV. We have selected a switching impulse withstand level of 1800 kV, and LIWL means here. LIWL means lightning impulse withstand level of 2400 kV. We will cover that shortly. What is switching impulse level? What is lightning impulse level? Why it should be considered? And at which voltage we have to consider? Everything we will cover shortly. Similarly, when it comes to power transfer capability of DC system, I have shown only here bipolar system. I have not shown multi-terminal HVDC system. For a bipolar HVDC transmission system, the power transfer is limited by 2 UDID, where U is the system voltage, I is the current carried, approximate current carried. So I have shown up to 800 kV plus or minus 800 kV. What should be the current range? What should be the power range? If at all you want, you can. I will be sharing the PPT. You can look into the formula later. So India has its own bipolar system. The nearest one is in Kolar in Karnataka. Kolar to Talcher it is there. Rehan, Delhi, Vidyanchal, and all other places we have. And one of the significant part right now we have taken is we are moving for multi-terminal HVDC system. So far, I have shown the 8-line transmission line which you are seeing. All belongs to HVDC transmission line, bipolar lines. And India also around 15 back-to-back station right now we have in India. All are operating. 15 back-to-back stations we are having to integrate our systems. And one of the key projects we have undertaken recently is we are moving for a plus or minus 800 kV, 6000 megawatt HVDC multi-terminal systems. It means we are covering from north, we are joining northeastern part of India to northern India. That the line is from Bishwa to Agra. This is if this project completed, India will have the world largest HVDC multi-terminal system. The project is being ongoing right now. And other thing is, just a minute. Yeah. Not only we have we are connecting within India, we are also moving for grid connectivity with other nation as well. For example, India had signed an agreement with Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and other neighbor countries where we are commissioning generating station in those countries, and we are planning to interconnect our power grid with their power grid and to transfer power from those countries to ours and vice versa. It is possible, and the connection between Bangladesh to India is already been done. 500 megawatt HVDC interconnection with Bangladesh has already been done 2 years before. And one of the upcoming project nearby Tamil Nadu and Karnataka would be Madurai Anandapura project. This project is quite interesting because it will be done on an underground cable. This project is right now being in the process. Yeah, here, Madurai to Anandapura project. This is completed. The next step would be to complete Bhutan to India project and to connect that line with a multi-terminal HVDC system here. I don't think the Lahore Amritsar project is going to take any time soon, but this project will happen very soon, and also due to the tremendous hydropower capability in these areas, India is planning to build a lot of hydro projects within India as well as within the neighboring countries and to have a grid connectivity with them. Why this grid connectivity is very important is right now we are in a scenario where the amount of power consumed by a nation defines the prosperity of it. If a nation consumes less power, it literally means it is not a developed country. So this power supply is very much mandatory to ensure education, industrial development, manufacturing, growth, etc., etc., etc. So regardless of being the one of the vast country, we are a one nation, one grid country, one nation, one grid, and one frequency country. It doesn't happen overnight. We struggle for over years. We started with around 5 grids within India. We started with a northern grid, western grid, eastern grid, southern grid, and northeastern grid. It literally means we have 5 regional grids and 5 different frequencies within India itself. But later, we started an ambitious plan. We started to interconnect the grids within India. By 1991, we interconnected east and northeast grid. When I say connected, it literally means synchronized. By March 2003, we synchronized west with east and northeast. By August 2006, northern region is synchronized with central grid. And finally, by 2013, the central as well as northern grid was connected with the southern grid. So totally by 2013, we are a proud nation of having one nation, one grid, one frequency within India. And now we are moving a step ahead, as I told, by 2017-18, I believe the year is. We have to cross check that. We have already commissioned a interconnection system with Bangladesh also. So now we are not only have one nation, one grid, but also we are moving for interconnection with the neighboring countries as well. So the philosophy, when it comes to philosophy of high voltage insulation, the classification I have shown here, that is high voltage, extra high voltage, and ultra high voltage. It is as per IEC standard 60071. Please write down the number or note down later, because when we are speaking about specific terms and specific categories, it is really important to know the standard pertaining to the levels and how the calculations are being made. I'll be showing a few calculations from the standard, and how to calculate also I'll be discussing in this presentation. So the classification is as per IEC 60071. According to IEC 60071, high voltage line voltage level is in between 1 kV to 245 kV. And you see the very next point, the critical point here is between 1 kV to 245 kV system voltage. We are testing only for power frequency and lightning impulse voltage. I repeat, when the system voltage is between 1 kV to 245 kV, we are concentrating only on power frequency voltage and lightning impulse voltage. However, when the system voltage is greater than 245 kV, switching impulse comes into picture along with the pollution test. I repeat, when the system voltage is greater than 245 kV, that is nothing but extra high voltage line, along with power frequency and lightning impulse voltage, two more things comes into picture. One is switching impulse voltage, another one is pollution test. When the system voltage is greater than 750 kV, along with power frequency, lightning, switching, and pollution test, here the pollution will be more important, and switching and lightning will be more or less the same level. We will discuss that. I'm just giving a brief before coming into the actual calculation. I repeat, every level of voltage has its unique nomenclature. When it comes to high voltage line, that is less than 245 kV, we are not considering switching impulse voltage. We are considering only power frequency and lightning. Why, I will explain to you. When the extra high voltage comes into picture, that is greater than 245 kV, we are considering switching impulse as well as pollution test. When it comes to greater than 750 kV, your switching impulse voltage per unit level and lightning impulse per unit level will be very much close to each other, whereas the pollution test takes a predominant hand. Moving on. And what is the level of increase in voltage? In case of temporary overvoltage, that is nothing but power frequency overvoltage. I repeat, power frequency overvoltage is also called as temporary overvoltage. The range or the rate of rise of temporary overvoltage will be usually in the range of 1 per unit to 2 per unit. I repeat, per unit value of temporary overvoltage or power frequency overvoltage will be in the range of 1 per unit to 2 per unit. In case of switching surge or switching transient, the rise of voltage will be in the range of 2 per unit to 4 per unit, 2 per unit to 4 per unit. In case of lightning impulse or lightning switching surge or lightning transient, the rate of rise of voltage will be in the range of 4 per unit to 6 per unit. More than 6 per unit also possible, but generally this is the range. What I'm trying to say here is temporary overvoltage means 1 per unit to 2 per unit, that is the ratio. Switching surge means 2 to 4 per unit in between range. Lightning surge means 4 per unit to 6 per unit. When I say per unit, what exactly per unit means? Whatever the system voltage, you have to multiply the system voltage by root 2 and divided by root 3 will give 1 per unit value of the given system voltage. I will show the calculation to you. So again, I am redefining that. When the system voltage is less than 220 kV, you have to remember this. We call that as high voltage line. And when it comes to high voltage line, the key important parameter is power frequency withstand voltage and lightning impulse voltage. Switching impulse voltage doesn't comes into picture yet. It will happen, of course, circuit breaker is going to clear that, but insulation of the system is quite enough to withstand switching impulse voltage. However, the significance of switching impulse voltage will be quite higher when the system voltage is more than 245 kV. And when I say temporary over voltage or power frequency over voltage, it comes under line to line Ferranti effect, line to line fault, line to ground fault, or line to ground fault. When I say transient surges or impulse voltage, the classification, broader classification is switching impulse as well as lightning impulse. So we will speak only about right now high voltage line, that is system voltage less than 245 kV. I will be speaking in terms of what I will define what is power frequency withstand voltage and lightning impulse. Then we will go for next level. We will define switching impulse also. Then finally pollution we will cover. So this is the waveform classification given by IEC 60071. IEC 60071 is the internationally accepted standard for insulation coordination definition as well as impulse levels. So here they have given what are the low frequency fault, what are the transient. Under the transient, of course, your switching impulse will come, lightning impulse will come, and a very fast transient, that is a gas insulated substation faults also will come into transient only. Of course, when it comes to lightning impulse, there are many ways or many forms of lightning is available. One is intercloud. From one cloud to another cloud, lightning might jump. Intra-cloud, within the cloud itself, charges will strike, or a ladder will move from within the one end of the cloud to another end of the cloud. There is another particular phenomena called sprites, where lightning occurs between cloud to sky towards up. It is known as sprites. And the one which is very much significant for us is cloud to ground. Cloud to ground is the one we are concerned about. I just give a closer picture. Within cloud to cloud, how lightning strikes. Cloud to, at the same time, cloud to cloud as well as cloud to ground also lightning discharge might happen. Here the critical point is in order to happen this particular phenomena, there is a limit about size or diameter of the cloud. This kind of discharge, lightning discharges will happen when the cloud diameter is quite large, around 2 kilometer to 5 kilometer. This might happen if the cloud is that much large. And this is the phenomena which we are interested, cloud to ground. And there is no particular condition there. Only one lightning discharge has to emerge from a single cloud. No, it is a probabilistic phenomena. Once lightning discharge might happen, or at a time, two lightning discharge might happen. Since we are speaking about high voltage line, we will be concentrating on power frequency fault as well as lightning impulse over voltage or lightning impulse withstand level. Only these two faults we will concentrate for next 15 minutes. Then we will go for the next level. How this power frequency fault will be created in actual laboratory conditions? We will have a power frequency testing transformer. I'll just reduce the size so that you can see that. Yeah. What you are visualizing is a power frequency testing transformer, 1800 kV, 2000 kVA, a cascaded connection transformer. It's available in Central Power Research Institute, Bangalore. And there is a ultra high voltage transformer is also available. India has both research facilities up to high voltage and extra high voltage. If you want to perform research, option is available at Central Power Research Institute, Bangalore itself. And for ultra high voltage research, there is a separate ultra high voltage laboratory in Hyderabad, and comes under the wing of CPRA only. Coming to the lightning impulse withstand voltage or lightning impulse voltage, we already know when the system voltage is up to 245 kV, power frequency fault and lightning impulse fault are significant. How to create and how the wave shape should be, that is the critical condition. When I say lightning impulse voltage, standard defined that a lightning impulse voltage should have a front time of 1.2 microsecond, should have a tail time of 50 microsecond. The tolerance for the peak value is plus or minus 3%. The tolerance for the front time is plus or minus 30%. And the tolerance for the tail time is plus or minus 20%. In laboratory, you generally use Marx circuit or Marx generator to generate lightning impulse voltage. And of course, different waveforms and this is the standard waveform. Different equipment will be tested with different waveforms and different per unit values. I just elaborated that. In Bangalore, we can test up to 3 million volt. The Marx generator we are having has a capability of generating 3 million volt and it's supplying an energy of 150 kilojoule. The number of stages is 15 stages in order to generate lightning impulse voltage. In most of the time, if the generator is capable of doing that, we prefer to use a same generator to generate lightning impulse voltage as well as switching impulse voltage. However, recently there has been a limitation in the tolerance value has been removed by the standard, so that if you go to many R&D center, most of the R&D center will have a switching impulse generator within them. They only go outside to have lightning impulse withstand voltage. The problem is with respect to clearance. So I am showing the calculation for 3.6 kV system. If you have a calculator, kindly work along with me. It will help both of us. I have shown when the system, this is the table I have taken from IEC 60071. They have given three values here. Highest voltage for the equipment in terms of RMS value. standard rated short duration power frequency withstand voltage in terms of RMS value they have given, and standard rated lightning impulse withstand voltage in terms of peak they have given. So first thing I should know is when the highest system voltage is 3.6 kV, what is per unit value? That I should be aware. This calculation please write down. Per unit voltage is equal to highest system voltage into root 2 divided by root 3. So therefore, for a 3.6 kV system, per unit value is equal to 3.6 kV into root 2 divided by root 3 will be 2.939 kV. 2.939 kV. This will be 1 per unit. This is nothing but 1 per unit for a 3.6 kV system. Now, power frequency withstand voltage they have given us 10 kV. So 10 divided by 3.6, and both are in RMS. Please see, both are in RMS because both are in power frequency range. Power frequency withstand level is 10 divided by 3.6 is nothing but 2.77. Standard lightning impulse withstand level is equal to, you can see here they have given two value 20 and 40. Why they have given two value is the values 20 and 40 depends upon the ground impedance value or earth impedance value. If the earth resistance is very low, that is the preferred range is 5 ohm to 12 ohm, then we prefer to have 20. If not, we have to consider a standard lightning impulse voltage of 40. So 40 kV divided by per unit value, that is 2.939 kV, is equal to 13.61 times higher value we are considering. So your lightning impulse voltage is 13.61 times as that of the per unit system value. So 13.61 per unit is the standard impulse voltage for a 3.6 kV system, whereas your power frequency voltage is only 2.77 times higher. Sir, shall I keep it here or shall I move for the next slide? They can copy now.
We will send the PPT to them, Sulay, no problem. We can share with them, they can do it in their free time.
Fine. If at all anyone have doubt, you can stop me. If not, I will move for the next calculation. Hopefully, I have a couple of calculations. When you see the couple of calculations, you will get the idea how it is done. Does anyone have any query now? All right. If at all, please put a message. I think Karthik sir can convey to me. Moving ahead. Here the key point to be noted is how much increase is happening. For a 3.6 kV, power frequency withstand level is 2.77 times higher. Lightning impulse is 13.61 times higher. This value please note down. This will be gradually reducing when you are moving for higher and higher voltage. I repeat, the level you are considering will gradually reduce when you move for higher and higher voltage. For example, the next calculation I have shown for a 145 kV system voltage, your power frequency is 275 kV, your lightning impulse is 650 kV. You can see here also three values are given. If your grounding system is very proper, you can take 185 and 450. If not, you have to go for the highest. Most of the time we are going for highest value only. So what they have told us, for a 145 kV system, the lightning impulse voltage is 650 kV. So again per unit I have calculated. Per unit is nothing but higher system voltage into root 2 divided by root 3. So for a 145 kV system, if you substitute in the formula, per unit value is 118.392 kV. Your power frequency withstand level is 1.89 times higher than the highest system voltage, whereas standard lightning impulse withstand level is 5.49 times higher than the per unit value. You see here, When we consider for 3.6 kV, it is 13.61 times higher. However, when I move for 1.5 kV, it is only 5.490 times higher. That's what I told. When you move for higher and higher system voltage, your lightning impulse level as well as switching impulse level will come down, and when you move for above 600 kV, both will be very close to each other. Again, the three levels which they have given depends upon the type of earthing system. I'm moving for the next slide. It is a 245 kV system. Again, set of values is given for power frequency withstand voltage, and set of value is given for lightning impulse voltage. For example, for a 245 kV system, per unit value is 200.04 kV. Power frequency withstand level is 1.87 times of the highest system voltage, whereas standard lightning impulse voltage is equal to only 5.24 times. If you see the earlier slide, it is 5.4 times. Now this is 5.24 times. Similarly, in the earlier slide, power frequency withstand level is 1.89 times of highest system voltage. Now it is again reduced 1.87. Kindly observe this distinct difference. This is how the impulse level is defined for different system voltage. Of course, different parameters there we will cover step by step. Before going into the next step, I want to show you how this test is performed for any equipment, particularly for an insulator in the laboratory. It literally means if I have a system of 245 kV, suppose my system voltage is 245 kV, I repeat, my system voltage is 245 kV, then the insulator I am using in the system should be able to withstand 1050 kV of lightning impulse voltage and 460 kV of power frequency voltage. I repeat, if I have a system of 245 kV, then it should be able to withstand, that is, my insulator in the 245 kV system, I'm just taking insulator an example, any equipment for that matter. If I'm using insulators in the 245 kV system, the insulator should withstand 460 kV of power frequency withstand voltage, at least 460 kV of power frequency withstand voltage, and 1050 kV of standard lightning impulse withstand voltage. Standard lightning impulse means you already know front time is 1.2 microsecond, tail time is 50 microsecond. Before going into the next slide, I want to share actual testing video. Then we can go for next calculation. What you are seeing is a dry power frequency flashover test on a post insulator. We are seeing at what voltage this is the post insulator. What we are seeing on the screen is a post insulator. This is the actual testing. We are going to apply a power frequency voltage. We are going to keep on increasing the voltage, and we are going to observe up to what power frequency voltage this post insulator, also known as support insulator, can able to withstand, and at what voltage flashover happens. Sir, audio is available, sir?
Hi, it's audible only, so you can play.
Fine, sir. That particular test, what you have seen, was taken. This particular test was taken from CPRA Bangalore. Anyway, I'll play only the flashover part again. You can see the arc started from here and ended at here. Why? Because you can see this one. The line is coming from this end. That is the reason. And ground part is here. That is the reason the arc started from the line end, gradually propagated to the ground end via the air. I'll play again. Please look into the arc propagation. It will start from line end and it will move towards the ground end. Similarly, what you have seen there is dry power frequency withstand test and flashover test. It means under normal temperature pressure without rain, how much voltage it can withstand. But it is not always the case. There will be rainy days also. So under rainy condition, how much voltage it can withstand? That also we should be aware of. So we will create in laboratory artificial rain. There is an equipment called rain-making equipment, which can simulate and create actual rain within the laboratory itself. And after creating the rain, we will usually switch on the equipment at least 10 minutes before the experiment so that the rain create and the entire insulator surface is wet with water. And after that we apply the voltage. And we will see up to what voltage under wet weather condition, the power frequency or level of voltage it can withstand. Mind you, I am showing only the power frequency withstand flash over here, both dry and in wet condition. If you see that video, let me play it again. The arc started from the ground end. Why? Because now the line is connected at the ground. That because of that reason, arc started from the ground. Sorry. Here also line is connected at top only. Ground is given here. So again, line is coming from here. Line is coming here, and it is grounded at here. Let me play it again. Most of the high voltage experimentation, that is the common nomenclature, high voltage will be applied on the top end and ground will be provided at the bottom end. That is the easiest way to assemble in the laboratory. Going ahead. I think someone raised a hand. Narayan Malakar. Is there any question, sir? All right.
If any question also, we can discuss at the end of the sessions also.
If he has question, I can clarify now only. No
I
issues.
hope he's raising some question. Narayan Malkar, if you want, you can ask now. It's not an issue. Have a discussion at the end of the session also, sir.
Did he post any questions, sir?
No, he has not posted anything. Anyway, we can ask once again at the end of the session.
Fine, sir. So I have covered only high voltage part. Now I am moving for extra high voltage. That is when the system voltage is more than 245 kV. And now under extra high voltage, your switching transient also comes into picture. Along with the power frequency, along with the lightning transient, your switching transient also comes into picture. And a pollution test at the end I will cover. Why it is important, how it affected the Indian system in recent times, we will cover at the end. Your switching fault might be caused because of line closing, load rejection, a line dropping. That is one of the worst fault, of course. Irrelevant closing of your circuit breakers, that is non-synchronous motion of the circuit breakers terminals. And when the switching transient will be very severe at two conditions. One is during the opening and another one is closing. I repeat, during the switch closing and opening of your circuit breaker, the switching transient effect will be very much predominant, and especially when the system voltage is more than 245 kV, your switching transient becomes significant influence, increases leaps and bounds. That's why after 245 kV, we will test the equipment for switching impulse voltage and lightning impulse voltage. And of course, the amount of or the value or the magnitude of the switching impulse voltage depends upon the line parameters. How much charge is accumulated on the line, what is the closing angle, what is the pole span, what is the line parameter, what about the network, what about the compensation we have provided on the line. It depends, depends upon that. One of the usual way of studying in compute, if you are saying DNA is a transient network analysis, usually nowadays we are preferring RTDS. So when it comes to switching impulse voltage, the front time is 250 microsecond and the tail time is 2500 microsecond, where the case of lightning impulse voltage is 1.2 microsecond per 50 microsecond. Here it's quite larger because it is a switching impulse voltage. So the time duration is also more, 250 microsecond for the front time, 2500 microsecond for the tail time. And here you see the tolerance is 20% for the front time and 60% for the tail time. Whereas in earlier case lightning impulse voltage, the tolerance is only 30% for the tail time. Because of this reason, this particular reason, that is 2500 plus or minus 60%, not only Marx generator can generate switching impulse voltage, but also Tesla coil also can be used to create switching impulse voltage. I repeat, that's why switching impulse testing can be done on many laboratory nowadays, because this standard gives a lineage of tail time plus or minus 60%. That much of tolerance is provided. That is the reason why even ordinary power frequency testing transformer can be utilized to create a switching impulse voltage, or preferably to have a Tesla coil which can able to create 250 per 50 microsecond plus or minus 20% plus a tail time of 2500 microsecond plus or minus 60%. I just give this for a reference. Let us go for the actual calculation again. Since switching impulse comes under more than 245 kV, I have shown 420 kV. For a 420 kV system, I will, as a time being, I will explain only phase to earth and standard lightning impulse voltage. This is nothing but standard rated switching impulse voltage. It is short form, it is called as SIL, switching impulse level. And this is standard lightning impulse voltage, that is nothing but LIL, lightning impulse level. So what it says is, for a 420 kV, I repeat, for a 420 kV system, that is 400 kV system, highest system voltage is 420 kV. Phase to earth insulation should be tested for 1050 kV and lightning level should be tested for 1425 kV. how they are defined? Let us see. Again, for a 420 kV system, the per unit value is 342.92 kV. Again, the same formula I used. Highest system voltage into root 2 divided by root 3. That will be the per unit value for a 420 kV system, that is 342.92. And switching impulse withstand voltage, I repeat, switching impulse withstand voltage is nothing but 1050 divided by 342. You see here, now it is peak. Earlier it was RMS. In power frequency, it is in terms of RMS. When it comes to switching impulse, it is only peak. Therefore, switching impulse withstand voltage is equal to 1050 divided by per unit value is nothing but 3.062. It literally says your switching impulse voltage level is 3 times of that of highest system voltage. 3 times of per unit level actually here. Okay. Standard lightning impulse voltage, that is impulse withstand voltage, is equal to 1425 divided by 342.90 gives 4.141. You can see now when the system voltage is above 400, both are coming closer. This is 3.062, this is 4.141. I'll just give 1 minute to observe this, then I'll move for the next slide. Going ahead. I have taken a 800 kV system here. For a 800 kV system, standard switching impulse withstand voltage is 1550 kV for phase to earth, and standard lightning impulse voltage is 2100 kV. So again, per unit value for 800 kV system is 653.19 kV. Switching impulse level is 2.37 times as that of per unit value, whereas standard lightning impulse level is 3.214 times as that of the per unit value. So you can see here, after 400 kV, the switching impulse and lightning impulse are coming quite closer together. This is very much important key point you should remember. Because when it comes to system design and other things, now this plays a major role. That is the reason after 400 kV, your switching becomes more predominant when it comes to designing criteria more than lightning. Whereas less than 400 kV, your lightning defines the design criteria more than switching. So generally, this is the common case for any insulation. Your strength of the insulation depends upon the magnitude of the stress, the rate at which the stress is applied, and duration of the stress. And of course, the dielectric strength is waveform dependent. So the critical part here is, it is necessary that you provide enough insulation, but over insulation results in the packets of the utility. Under insulation or under insulation coordination results in the poor reliable supply. So we have to always match secure supply with that of minimal cost. So I have just shown a insulation configuration for the calculation purpose. When comes to a rod plane configuration, it is K is nothing but how much times we consider. This is known as a safety factor when it comes to insulation design. In the next slide, I will explain. For different configuration, that is rod plane, or a rod conductor window, conductor plane, different configuration, what is the safety factor we will consider, that is how much times we will consider. And with respect to this particular factor, your insulation distance will vary. When I say distance, it means face to face and face to earth or line to earth. And preferable in India, we are going with the rod configuration that is 1.3 times of the actual value. How this 1.30 plays a major role, I will show you in the next slide. So see here, sir, the numbers are visible to you, right, sir? All right. So see here, this is again taken from the standard only. They have given insulation level and minimum phase to ground air clearance. Insulation level to minimum phase to ground air clearance level. This K 1.30 is for rod. You remember, I hope in the previous slide, we have taken rod as 1.30. So let me consider the 1550. What you are seeing is the rated impulse voltage, switching impulse voltage and lightning impulse voltage level, and what should be the distance between phase to ground. For rated switching impulse and lightning impulse voltage level, what should be the distance between phase to ground? For let me consider only the one value, 175. Technically, this is if you go to the standard, you can see 1550 1175. On the first look, I can tell it is a 400 kV system. And for a 400 kV system, they defined that the distance between phase to ground clearance is 3.07 meter. I repeat, for a 400 kV system, phase to earth distance should be 3.07 meter. It means for a 400 kV system, the distance between tower cross arm to the conductor, it should be only 3.07 meter. It should not be more than that. I repeat, for a 400 kV system, if we are considering a safety factor of 1.30, then the tower to line distance is 3.07 meter. So within this 3.07 meter, we have to keep the insulation. Suppose if you are taking a cap and pin insulator, the cap and pin insulator will have a dry arcing distance, that is cap to pin distance of 145 mm. So roughly for a 400 kV system, you can include 23 insulators. On the rough calculation, I'm telling this. For a cap and pin insulator, that is standard drip design insulator, a dry arcing distance is 145 mm. That is the distance between cap and pin. So to accommodate 3.07 meter, within 3.07 meter, you can include only 23 to 24 insulator. That is how if you go to an actual 400 kV system, if you count the number of insulator between line to ground, the number of insulator will be around 23 to 24. Similarly, by this connection, if we go for a 220 kV system, the line to ground number of insulator will be roughly 14 insulator. So just by looking at the tower, now you can tell what is the voltage carried on the tower. I repeat, no need to look for any plate details. By counting the number of insulator, you can tell what is the line voltage available there. If the number of insulator is 23, it will be a 400 kV system. If the number of insulator is 14, it will be a 220 kV system. Okay. And till when it comes to at least Indian scenario, till 1990, this level of insulation design selection was very much optimal, and we don't have any issue at all. But what happened after 1920 is we started to experience more and more electrical tripping in morning and evening. I repeat, especially during the early morning hours and late evening hours, we started to see more and more trippings in the 220 kV and above line, not at below. After above 220 kV, especially at 220 kV, 400 kV and 750 kV lines, we started to experience more and more system trippings. after 1990s. And in 2003, I repeat, in 2003, there was a complete power blackout around 18 states. And it was repeated in 2007, 8 and 10. I repeat, number of trippings recorded, you can see here the data. This is taken from Central Electricity Authority, Government of India. You can see in 2010, 238 trippings happened. It means there is no power is transferred. Power is generated, but it cannot be transmitted in the transmission line because of this tripping. So what happened is government formed a committee in 2007, Central Electric Authority. They asked what is happening. Why, after defining and designing as per with respect to IEC 6D007, why these trippings are happening? Then we came to know that there is an additional phenomena called pollution test. Though we designed the line traditionally with respect to BIL, basic insulation level, now we are also considering pollution withstand level when the system voltage is more than 220 kV. So why this pollution flashover is important is, normally for a given air gap, the insulation could able to withstand the given voltage comfortably. There won't be any issue. But what is happening in the field condition is, the contaminant in the atmosphere tend to accumulate on the surface of the insulator. They form contaminant coating or conductive coating in the early morning and late evening. Due to humidity in the atmosphere, this contaminant start to conduct current known as leakage current, and because of this flashover is happening. This particular phenomena is known as pollution flashover. I have just given few examples: bird droppings, burning of agricultural waste, and industrial pollution. One of the significant thing which is not shown here is marine pollution. As you know, near the seashore, the air itself contains salt content in it. If the transmission line is passing near the seashore, the salt tend to accumulate on the insulator surface. In morning and evening, the salt will moisturize, it will conduct, arcing, finally pollution flashover. The critical problem when it comes to pollution flashover is, this phenomena cannot be cleared by circuit breaker alone unless and until you create, or unless and until you clear the pollution causing environment. This phenomena cannot be overcome. Because of that, around 2011 or 12, Power Grid given a steady state recommendation that in India, if we are going to buy insulation, the level of insulation should be at least in the terms of medium level, it should be able to withstand. The medium level pollution level, all the insulators in India should withstand. That is the recommendation given by PGCL to all the central as well as state utility. I'll just show and play a video about a pollution flashover to you. Just a minute.
Surely, sir?
What is it, sir?
Okay.
I'm connecting, sir. 1 second.
Okay.
Is the video? I think I disabled audio. 1 second. I will connect the audio also.
Okay.
let me explain now. What you are seeing is a insulator coated with contaminant. We are applying voltage on that. What you are visualizing is known as scintillation. Scintillation is nothing but a minute arc trying to bridge each other. Scintillation progress to flashover, and if the scintillation progresses to 2/3 of the length of the insulation, then it will result in the flashover. And this phenomena is known as, what you are seeing right now is known as solid layer test, which is conducted in the laboratory. This is replicating industrial pollution occurring in the high voltage lines of India. Yeah. This is how actually it happened in the field also. When this pollution phenomena won't happen in a newly erected line, it will take time. But the problem is the once the pollution flashover happen, unless and until the pollution causing environment is cleared. For example, I will give a scenario to you. One of the critical source of pollution flashover is bird shit. We might have seen lot of birds sitting on the transmission line and insulators, and they will shit on the insulator also. The problem is the bird shit is highly acidic in nature. So we cannot clear all the birds every time. We cannot say birds don't sit there on the line and tower. Similarly, if there is an industry, we cannot say industry to move somewhere else. It is our duty to give supply to the industry. So what government of India decided is, wherever 220 kV and more than 220 kV lines are passing through the entire India, we have to create a database to know what is the level of severity available in the field condition. There are 4 levels are there. One is low severity, medium severity, high severity, and very high severity. We have to first, wherever tripping happened, we have to know what is the level of pollution severity there, followed by what is the level of insulation available. If the insulation is not optimal, then we have to select a higher level of insulation. This exercise started in 2012-13. By 2015, for entire North India, for around 12 states, pollution map is available. By 2018, entire southern India, when I say southern India, I include Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. For all the 5 states, pollution maps is available from we are the entire for 400 kV line and 220 kV line. Research teams went, studied those lines for 2 years. They measured pollution level for every season. They analyzed what is the cause of pollution, and they found out and they mapped at the tower end what is the level of contaminant severity available. Let me show that also. Since most of the participants I have been told that from Tamil Nadu and Kerala, Karnataka, so I am just showing the map of Tamil Nadu. Sir, is the map visible to you, sir?
Yes, Sunil, yes.
Fine.
You can just
what you are seeing is a pollution mapping with reference to transmission system, that is more than 220 kV and 400 kV transmission system of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. This operation was carried out together by CPRA Bangalore as well as PGCL New Delhi, Gurgaon to be precise. We can see when the transmission line is near to the coastal, the pollution is more, and most of the pollution, here. The light brown, I would say this one is medium severity. Thicker one is high severity. Reddish one is very high severity. So this very high severity, definitely the insulation should be taken care immediately. And wherever high severity is there, we have to study and select the insulation accordingly. Regardless 220 kV or 400 kV line, along with SIL, that is switching impulse level, and BIL, that is nothing but a basic insulation level, also known as lightning impulse level. Pollution severity also to be considered, and it is right now being considered in India. To give an additional point to you, now it is mandatory that not only in transmission and distribution, but also even in metro station. I believe most of the people might be aware. There is right now work has been started from Mumbai to Gujarat for India's first bullet train project. And the second bullet train project is coming in between Chennai to Bangalore. In these bullet train project also, they had made mandatory that insulation selected, usually insulation coordination, that is BAL, SAL level sufficient, but along with BAL, SAL level, along the 300-kilometer line stretch, we are also measuring pollution level, even in metro rail station nowadays. 2 months back, Prime Minister Modi inaugurated a WDFC corridor, that is a Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, that is along the coastal region Mumbai and Gujarat, Rajasthan. In the entire line, pollution mapping has been created, and after that only insulation has been selected. So now it is become mandatory that along with the SIL, BAL, pollution level should also be known. I'll just show a couple of maps for you to make more understandable. Maybe I'll show Karnataka. So kindly excuse for the delay. The quality of the image is quite high, so it will take little time to load. All right. I think I will show the entire southern region. That will be easy. Okay, I will come back to again this one at the end. Yes. So how we encountered this pollution flashover? Excuse me. Sir, is the PPT visible to you, sir?
Viewable, Sulai.
Fine, sir. Thank you. So how we encountered the pollution flashover is we started helipad washing in northern India, but that was quite a failure one. We even tried to clean the substation insulated by means of high jet washing, but again, it doesn't provide optimal result. Finally, we moved for insulation selection itself, where we select appropriate insulation to avoid pollution dripping due to high contaminant environment. Right now, the immediate thing we can do is, since the pollution mapping is available for northern India and southern India, this northern India data is available in NRPC website. NRPC means Northern Region Power Committee website. The map I have shown, it is already available in government database. Those who want to do research, they can use those data and they can perform cost benefit analysis, which material can be used to select for a given severity area. And over 100 years, we have been traditionally using porcelain insulators and glass insulator in Indian power system. However, because of this pollution problem, we started moving more and more towards polymeric insulator. This polymeric insulator is of course made up of organic material. Any organic material will be subjected to thermal degradation and UV degradation. Therefore, the corona ring, the voltage distribution, all other things comes into a very unique picture. Right now, another study which is happening when it comes to insulation selection, especially when it comes to polymeric insulation, is how to give optimal corona ring design. That is still an area of research under happening. Why the polymeric insulator or composite insulator provide a better pollution performances? Because of their hydrophobic property. As I told you earlier, even though the contaminant accumulate on the surface of the insulator, if they cannot be wet by water, how can they conduct? We know that in order to current flow, we need a continuous current path. If the water cannot wet the surface, the possibility of getting a continuous conductive path is very less, and because of that particular phenomena, that is hydrophobic property, polymeric insulators are gaining a huge market in India right now. And traditional insulator, that is ceramic insulator and glass insulator, all are hydrophilic surface property. So we are encountering by means of two-way right now. One is wherever more problem is happening, there we are moving for RTV coating, room temperature vulcanized coating. On the surface of the insulator, we coat polymeric material to enhance its pollution withstand severity. And another critical thing is, I told you when it comes to insulation coordination, we prefer IEC 60071. However, there is no such standard yet available when it comes to polymeric insulator. If the standard is not available, it means that is a huge opportunity for any researcher to do research. Since we don't know where to go and how to go, every input available is a valid input and valuable input. And these were the few area where research can be done. And I have given aging analysis. This analysis, this kind of research, that is influence of globule and electric field, RTV coating thickness, movement of globule. This can be done in any academic institution. You don't have to be in IISc or CPRA. This kind of research can be done with minimal funding, and both simulation as well as laboratory experiment can be done quite indoor and with reduced cost also. Still, the research is more pivotal and have a more valuable input and impact. And one of the another area right now more research is happening is let me complete that part also. I think I have another 3 minutes. Treeing and tracking phenomena under AC and DC supply voltage. How the surface is behaving, how much it is degrading under given electrical stress. This is one research where still research is happening. And also I told about under less than 220 kV per system voltage, we are not considering, of course, there will be fault will happen, and switching impulse also happen at 220 kV. Circuit breaker more often and not open and close at 220 kV also. But nowadays, another research happening in that area is, instead of operating circuit breaker less than 220 kV, there are significant researches happening. How can we use a surge arrestor which can able to provide enough isolation less than 220 kV system? Earlier, when it comes to surge arrestor design and development, we were predominantly using only for lighting impulse voltage. Now that is not the case. This polymeric insulation has seen its depth even in surge arrestor design. Nowadays, even the post insulator and support structures are coming out of polymeric insulator only. And because of that particular phenomena, we are also into research, especially after ZNO blocks comes into picture. There has been significant research is happening how to use surge arrestor to power frequency over voltage fault. I think I completed that. Let me go back. I think the image might be loaded now. Yeah. Sir, is the image available, sir, now?
It's viewable now.
Fine, thank you. So I am just showing the pollution level map of Karnataka, where Dharwad is having highest level of pollution, So does Tumkur, Chikbalakpur, and Bangalore also. Bangalore urban is almost having a high level, and very high available is available at Bangalore urban only. If this is a very high available, there are two possibilities there. One is there might be industry or there might be an environment which is causing that pollution. Yeah, I think this might take a little more time. What I'm trying to show here is the pollution map of entire northern India. I think it will take some time to load. Meanwhile, I'm happy to engage in Q&A session. Later, come back to the image if possible. That will be all from my end, sir. So you can see in the picture, entire Delhi, Haryana, Punjab comes under very high pollution, and rest of the northern India still comes under high pollution, and there is very few medium pollution available. And these were the particular areas where trippings also happened most. Whatever the images I have shown, the mappings I have shown, it is already available in the Northern Regional Power Committee webpage. You can look into that, please. Sir, I'm open for questions, sir.
Any discussions, any questions from the audience? If you want, you can have a discussion now. Is there any norms, since you have said that for pollution testing, there is some artificial rain is provided?
Yes, sir, there are particular standards are available. One is IEC 60507. It will give how to conduct a pollution test. It will define the methodology, how to do the test, and also what should be the source characteristics should be able to meet before doing the test. For example, I cannot use an ordinary transformer to conduct a pollution test. Testing transformer or pollution transformer for that case, it should be able to supply at least 6 ampere of short circuit current.
Okay, but my question is related to the quality of the rain, whatever you are saying, whether there is any angle to soil the rain, or the water
yes.
we are using for rain, is there any property?
Conductivity limitation in order to whatever we are using, what should be the conductivity of the water we are using, all other thing will be defined on that.
Okay, right.
Corresponding standard will define not only the water conductivity, but also the angle at which the water should reach the instrument, that also will be defined.
Okay, right. Okay.
Everything will be defined, and also the height. For example, if I say a 220 kV system, what should be the height of the equipment? That also will be defined. If possible, I will show. I think my this one is struck. Yeah, I will try to show the actual rainmaking equipment picture to you. If you don't mind, I will just shall I rejoin again? I am facing some issue here.
Okay, right.
I think now it is fine.
Okay. Any other questions? Narayan Malkar, I hope yes, unmuted. If you want, you can ask questions. Narayan Malkar.
It's not about question. Anything, if I can be able to help, I'll be happy to engage or able to point out the right direction to go ahead.
If there is no any discussions, questions from audience side, then we can close the session.
Fine, sir.
Right. Okay. Right. So, okay. Thank our expert member, Dr. Sudalesan Mugam, for sharing his valuable time with us and sharing his valuable expertise learned from the CPRI Bangalore. Thank Sudalesan Mugam. Thank you, Sudalesan Mugam, sir, for sharing knowledge with us.
Pleasure to engage with you.
Yes. Right. Thank you. So, for our audience, the next session would be started at 2 p.m. So afternoon you'll be having 2 sessions, 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. So kindly join after the lunch break around exactly at 2 p.m. for afternoon sessions. So thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Suralesan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.